The gun hidden beneath his jacket, the blood still fresh on his knuckles, the 50 men outside who'd kill at his command. Amara knew none of this when she crossed the bar toward Kang Min-ho. Her friend's drunken laughter died the moment she leaned down to kiss him, the moment his fingers wrapped around her throat with devastating gentleness, the moment his voice dropped to a lethal whisper.
Who dare you to
Who
touch what is
dared you to
mine?
touch what's mine? She'd kissed a monster for money, but now the monster wanted to keep her, and everyone in Seoul knew. When Min-ho claimed something, he burned the world down to protect it. Welcome to my channel, fam. Please like, share, and subscribe. The bass thundered through Club Vermilion, shaking the floors beneath Amara's heels as her friends pushed her toward the VIP section. The bet had been stupid, reckless even, but 3 shots of tequila had made her brave enough to accept it. That one, her friend Jade pointed to a man sitting alone in the shadows, his presence commanding despite his stillness. Kiss him and we'll cover your rent this month. Amara's breath caught. Even from across the room, she could feel the danger radiating from him. His suit was perfectly tailored across broad shoulders, his jaw sharp enough to cut glass, and his eyes, even in the dim light, held a coldness that made her shiver. But rent was rent. She smoothed down her burgundy dress, the fabric hugging her curves as she crossed the club floor. Her heart hammered with each step. Up close, he was devastating, sharp cheekbones, lips that looked cruel and beautiful at once, and an aura of lethal control. Kang Min-ho had noticed her the moment she'd entered his club. He noticed everything. It was how he'd survived in a world built on betrayal and blood. But this woman, with her rich brown skin glowing under the lights and her curves moving like sin itself, had captured his attention in a way nothing had for years. When she leaned down, her scent, vanilla and something, sweeter, wrapped around him. Her lips touched his, soft and warm, and the world stopped. The kiss lasted 3 seconds. 3 seconds that rewrote Min-ho's entire existence. His hand shot out, fingers circling her wrist with gentle firmness as she tried to pull away. Their eyes met, and Amara felt the air leave her lungs. His gaze was molten, possessive, hungry in a way that made her forget her own name. Who dared you? His voice was smooth, accented, deadly quiet. Her throat went dry. It was just a game. Games have consequences. His thumb traced her pulse point, feeling it race beneath his touch. What's your name? Amara. He tasted her name on his tongue, committing it to memory. Amara. I'm Min-ho, and you've just made a very dangerous mistake. Later that night, Amara couldn't stop thinking about him. His face haunted her as she lay in bed, the feel of his fingers still burning on her skin. She told herself it meant nothing, that she'd never see him again. She was wrong. The next morning, Amara arrived at her job at Sterling Gallery to find a massive bouquet of black roses waiting on her desk. No card, just flowers the color of midnight and a small velvet box containing a bracelet of white gold and diamonds. Her co-worker Maria whistled low. Someone's got an admirer. Who's the lucky guy? I don't know. But Amara's hands trembled as she touched the delicate bracelet. Somehow, she knew exactly who'd sent it. That evening, Min-ho watched from his car across the street as Amara left work. His second-in-command, Yoo Jun-seo, sat in the driver's seat, his expression carefully neutral. You're obsessing, Jun-seo said quietly, over a woman you met for 3 seconds. 4 seconds! Min-ho's jaw tightened. And I'm not obsessing, I'm claiming. Boss? She's not from our world. She's innocent. Which is exactly why she needs protection. Min-ho's eyes never left Amara's figure as she walked toward the subway. Find out everything. Where she lives. Who she knows. Who she talks to. I want daily reports. You're going to scare her. I'm going to keep her safe. Min-ho's voice dropped to something dark and absolute. Whether she knows she needs it or not. A few days later, Amara started noticing things. Her favorite coffee appeared on her desk each morning, prepared exactly how she liked it. Her car, which had been making concerning noises, was suddenly repaired, the mechanic claiming someone had already paid. Her landlord called to say her rent was covered for the next 6 months. It should have frightened her. Instead, it made her pulse quicken every time she thought about dark eyes and a voice that promised danger. The following week, Min-ho walked into Sterling Gallery during her shift. Amara nearly dropped the sculpture she was cataloging. He looked different in daylight, no less dangerous, but devastatingly handsome in a black shirt that stretched across his muscular chest. "You," she breathed. "Me." He moved toward her like a predator, all controlled power. "I'm interested in acquiring some pieces for my collection." Of course." Her professional mask slipped into place, though her hands shook slightly. "What are you looking for?" "Something beautiful." His eyes never left her face. "Something rare. Something I can't stop thinking about." The air between them crackled. Amara's breath came faster as he stepped closer, invading her space in a way that should have been threatening but felt like a promise. "Mr. Kang?" "Min-ho," he corrected softly. "Say my name, Amara." The way he said her name, low and possessive, sent heat through her body. "Min-ho, I don't think—" "Good. Don't think." His hand lifted, fingertips grazing her cheek. "Just feel. Tell me you haven't thought about me every night since that kiss." She couldn't, because she had. That evening, Min-ho took her to dinner at the most exclusive restaurant in Seoul. Amara felt out of place among the wealthy elite, but Min-ho's hand at the small of her back steadied her. "Tell me about yourself," he commanded softly once they were seated in a private room overlooking the city. "There's not much to tell. I moved here from New York 2 years ago for the gallery job. I love art, I read too much, and I'm terrible at cooking." She met his eyes. "Now you." His smile was dangerous. "I'm a businessman. I make problems disappear, and I protect what's mine." "Am I yours?" The boldness surprised her. "From the moment you kissed me." His hand covered hers on the table. "You just don't know it yet." The next day, everything changed. Amara was closing the gallery alone when 3 men entered, their intentions clear in their cold eyes. She backed toward the emergency button, but the leader was faster, grabbing her arm. "You're coming with us. Kang Min-ho needs to learn there are consequences for—" The man's words cut off as the gallery door exploded inward. Min-ho moved like death itself, his fists connecting with bone and flesh with brutal efficiency. In seconds, all 3 men were on the ground, unconscious or groaning in pain. Min-ho turned to Amara, his eyes wild with barely controlled rage and fear. Blood spattered his knuckles as he cupped her face, checking her for injuries. "Did they hurt you?" "No, What just happened? Who were they?" His jaw clenched. "Rivals. They knew hurting you would hurt me." He pulled her against his chest, his arms iron bands around her. "I should have told you sooner. I should have prepared you." "Told me what?" "What I really am." Later that night, in his penthouse, Min-ho told her everything. About the organization he'd inherited from his father, about the blood on his hands, about the empire built on fear and loyalty. He waited for her to run, to look at him with disgust. Instead, Amara stepped closer. "You saved me tonight." "I put you in danger by wanting you." "No." Her hand touched his chest, feeling his heart thunder beneath her palm. "You protected me. There's a difference." Something broke in him then. His control, his distance, the walls he'd built. His hands framed her face and he kissed her like a drowning man finding air. Desperate, claiming, absolute. The kiss deepened, turned hungry. His hands mapped her curves while hers explored the hard planes of his body. They stumbled toward his bedroom, shedding clothes between fevered kisses and whispered names. What happened next was written in gasps and touches, in the way he worshipped every inch of her body like she was something sacred, in the way she surrendered to him completely. Their connection was primal, overwhelming, a collision of souls that left them both trembling. When Amara woke the next morning, she was alone. Panic seized her chest. The space beside her was cold, and a note on the pillow read, "Had to handle business. Stay here. You're safe." But fear consumed her anyway. Men like Min-ho didn't keep women like her. Last night had been a mistake, a moment of weakness he'd regret. She dressed quickly, slipping out of the penthouse before anyone could stop her. By afternoon, Min-ho's carefully controlled world was unraveling. He'd left early to handle the men who'd threatened Amara, to make sure the message was clear. She was untouchable. He'd returned to an empty bed and felt genuine terror for the first time in a decade. "Find her," he barked at Junseo. "Now." "Boss, maybe she just needed space." "She thinks I used her." Min-ho's hands clenched into fists. "She thinks last night meant nothing. Find her before I tear this city apart looking." Amara made it 3 hours before Min-ho found her at her apartment. He didn't knock, simply used the key he'd had made weeks ago. She spun from her window, eyes wide. "How did you—" "Why did you leave?" His voice was raw, stripped of its usual control. He crossed the room in long strides, backing her against the wall. "Why did you run from me?" "Because you left me." Tears burned her eyes. "Because men like you don't keep women like me. Last night was everything." He cut her off, his forehead pressing to hers. "Last night was everything, Amara. I left because I was eliminating every threat to you, because I was making sure no one could hurt you again. I was coming back. I will always come back. Min-ho." "I love you." The words were harsh, torn from somewhere deep. "I've loved you since that kiss, since the moment you walked into my world and turned it inside out. You're not a mistake or a moment of weakness. You're mine, and I'm yours, and nothing, not my world, not danger, not fear, will change that." She kissed him then, tears streaming down her face, pouring everything she felt into that connection. He lifted her easily, carrying her to the couch where they held each other like the world might try to tear them apart. "I love you too," she whispered against his neck. "I'm scared, but I love you." "Then let me protect you. Let me keep you safe." His arms tightened. "Move in with me. Let me build a fortress around you." "Yes." The following week, Amara moved into Min-ho's penthouse. He was possessive to the point of obsession, always touching her, always knowing where she was, but she found she didn't mind. His attention felt like being worshipped. One evening at a charity gala, a business associate, a tall American named Marcus, spent too long talking to Amara, his eyes lingering on her curves. Min-ho appeared at her side within seconds, his arm sliding around her waist with clear ownership. "Marcus." His smile was all teeth. "I see you've met my woman." "Just making conversation, Kang. No harm meant." "Of course not." Min-ho's grip tightened fractionally on Amara's hip. "Because you know what happens to men who covet what's mine." Marcus paled and excused himself quickly. Amara turned in Min-ho's arms, seeing the jealous fire in his eyes. "You're being possessive." "You're mine." His hand slid to cup her face. The thought of, "Another man looking at you makes me want to commit violence." "Good thing I only want you looking then." His kiss was claiming, deep enough to make her forget they were in public. When he pulled back, his eyes were molten. "Let's go home. Now." But before they could leave, chaos erupted. Gunshots cracked through the air, sending guests screaming. Min-ho shielded Amara with his body, pulling her behind a marble pillar as his security team engaged the attackers. "Stay down," he commanded, but his eyes were already tracking the threat, his hand producing a gun from his jacket. "Min-ho, no! I said stay down." He kissed her hard and fast, then stepped out to join the fight. Amara watched in horror and awe as he moved through the chaos with lethal precision, protecting his people, eliminating threats. But she didn't see the man behind her until it was too late. A hand clamped over her mouth and a knife pressed to her throat. "Come quietly, or I'll kill everyone in this room." Amara's scream was muffled as she was dragged toward a service exit. The last thing she saw was Min-ho turning, his face transforming into something terrible and primal as he realized she was being taken. His roar of rage shook the building. "Amara!" But the door slammed shut and she was gone. Min-ho didn't remember the next few hours clearly, only that he'd killed the remaining attackers with his bare hands, that he'd tortured the one survivor until the man begged for death and gave up the location. "It's Park Ji-soo," Junseo reported grimly. "He's taken her to the warehouse district. Boss, it's a trap." "I don't care." Min-ho loaded weapons with methodical precision, his face a mask of deadly calm. "Assemble everyone. We burn it all down to get her back." "There's too many of them." Min-ho's eyes were black ice. "Then we kill them all, every single one. No mercy, no survivors. They took what's mine." By midnight, Min-ho stood outside the warehouse where they were holding Amara. 50 armed men surrounded the building. He had 30. The odds didn't matter. "Anyone who surrenders lives," he announced, his voice carrying across the empty lot. "Anyone who doesn't dies. You have 60 seconds to decide." Inside, Amara was bound to a chair, her lips split but her eyes defiant. Park Ji-soo circled her like a shark, his smile cruel. "He won't come for you. You're not worth starting a war over." "You don't know him at all, then," Amara said quietly. "He'll come, and you'll wish you'd killed me quickly." The first explosion rocked the building. Then, gunfire erupted like thunder, and Amara knew Min-ho had arrived. What followed was carnage. Min-ho fought through Jisoo's men like an avenging angel, taking bullets and knife wounds without slowing. His only thought was reaching Amara, keeping her safe, making sure she knew she was everything. When he finally kicked open the door to the room where she was held, blood covered his clothes and face. But his eyes, when they found her, were pure relief. "Amara! Min-ho!" She fought against her restraints as Jisoo grabbed her from behind, pressing a gun to her temple. "One more step and she dies!" Jisoo snarled. Min-ho froze, calculating. His gun was trained on Jisoo's head, but the angle was wrong. If he missed by even a fraction... "You won't shoot," Jisoo continued. "You love her too much. It makes you weak." "No." Min-ho's smile was terrifying. "It makes me absolutely willing to die to save her. Can you say the same about anything in your life?" In one fluid motion, Min-ho took the shot meant for himself, diving forward as Jisoo's gun fired. The bullet grazed Min-ho's shoulder, but his aim was true. Jisoo crumpled, and Amara was free. Min-ho cut her bonds with shaking hands, pulling her against him so tightly she could barely breathe. "I've got you. You're safe. I've got you." "You're bleeding." "I don't care." He kissed her desperately, tasting tears, his or hers, he didn't know. "I thought I'd lost you." "I thought." "I knew you'd come." She cupped his face, her thumbs wiping blood and tears. "I knew you wouldn't stop until I was safe." The following morning, as doctors stitched Min-ho's wounds in his private medical wing, he didn't let go of Amara's hand. She sat beside his bed, exhausted but whole, and he looked at her like she was his entire world. "Marry me," he said suddenly. She blinked. "What?" "Marry me. Tomorrow, next week, right now, I don't care, but marry me. Let me make you mine in every way that matters." His grip tightened on her hand. "I can't survive another night without knowing you're permanently mine." Tears filled her eyes. "You're serious?" "I've never been more serious about anything." He pulled her down for a kiss, gentle despite the intensity in his eyes. "Say yes, Amara. Say you'll be mine forever." "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, I'll marry you." The next month was a whirlwind. Min-ho kept his promise, marrying Amara in a private ceremony attended only by his most trusted people. She wore white silk that hugged her curves, and he wore a black suit that made him look like sin itself. When the officiant pronounced them married, Min-ho kissed her like he was claiming her soul. "Mine," he whispered against her lips. "Forever mine." "Forever yours," she agreed. Their wedding night was spent in his Their penthouse, where he showed her exactly how much he worshipped her, how completely she owned him. And later, wrapped in his arms with the city lights glittering below, Amara finally felt safe. 6 months later, Amara stood in Min-ho's office, her hand pressed to her still flat stomach, a pregnancy test in her other hand. When he looked up from his paperwork, the expression on her face made him cross the room in 2 strides. "What is it? What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong." Tears streamed down her cheeks as she held up the test. "Everything's perfect. We're having a baby, Min-ho." The fierce Mafia boss who ruled Seoul's underworld dropped to his knees before her, pressing his face to her stomach, his shoulders shaking. "A baby. We're having a baby. Are you happy?" Her fingers threaded through his hair. He looked up at her and she saw everything, the love, the devotion, the absolute commitment. "I didn't know I could be this happy. You've given me everything, Amara. A reason to be better, a future to protect, a love I thought I'd never deserve." She pulled him up, kissing him with all the emotion flooding her heart. "You deserve everything, and I'm going to spend the rest of our lives proving it." The pregnancy changed everything and nothing. Min-ho became even more protective, insisting on guards following Amara everywhere, personally vetting her doctors and ensuring her every need was met before she even realized she had it. "You're hovering," she told him one morning as he watched her eat breakfast, his eyes tracking every bite like it was a mission-critical operation. "You're carrying my child. My heir." His hand covered hers on the table. "I'm allowed to hover. I'm 3 months pregnant, not made of glass." His expression softened, and he pulled her into his lap, cradling her against his chest. "You're everything. My wife, my love, the mother of my child. Forgive me if I want to wrap you in bulletproof glass and never let the world touch you." She melted against him as she always did. "I love you too, you obsessive man." But the peace couldn't last. It never did in Min-ho's world. 2 weeks later, whispers reached Min-ho's ears about a rival faction, the Jade Serpents, planning something big. Their leader, a vicious man named Chen Wei, had been making moves into Min-ho's territory, testing boundaries, seeing how far he could push. "He's asking about your wife," Jun Seo reported during a tense meeting. "About her routines, her guards, her medical appointments." Min-ho's face became stone. "He's threatening my pregnant wife?" "It appears so. He knows she's your weakness." "She's not my weakness." Min-ho's voice dropped to something lethal. "She's my reason for breathing, and anyone who threatens her doesn't deserve to breathe at all. Double her security. I want eyes on her 24/7, and find out everything about Chen Wei's operation. We're going to dismantle it piece by piece." That evening, Min-ho held Amara closer than usual as they lay in bed. His hand rested on her barely rounded belly, feeling the life growing inside her. "Something's wrong," she said quietly. "You're tense." He couldn't lie to her. "There's a threat. Nothing you need to worry about." "Don't." She turned to face him, her brown eyes fierce. "Don't lie to protect me. If someone's coming after us, I deserve to know." He studied her face, seeing the strength there that had first captivated him. A rival organization. Their leader is making threatening moves. I'm handling it. How? By making sure he understands that touching you means death, not quick death, not merciful, death. His eyes held dark promises. The kind of death that serves as a warning to everyone else in this city. She should have been frightened. Instead, she kissed him, pouring trust and love into the contact. "Then handle it. But come back to me. Always come back to me. Always," he vowed. The next day, everything went to hell. Amara was at a prenatal appointment, surrounded by 4 guards when the attack came. They hit fast and coordinated. Smoke bombs, gunfire, chaos designed to separate and confuse. By the time the smoke cleared, Amara was gone, and 3 of Min-ho's men were dead. The 4th guard, bleeding from a stomach wound, managed to get a message out before he died. "Chen Wei has her. Said to meet him at the old docks if you want her back alive. Min-ho received the news while in a meeting with his lieutenants. The glass in his hand shattered, cutting his palm, but he didn't notice the blood. His face went completely blank, a calm that was more terrifying than rage. How long ago? His voice was soft, controlled. 15 minutes. Assemble everyone. Every single person who owes me loyalty, every favor I'm owed, every resource I have. We mobilize in 10 minutes. He stood, rolling up his sleeves. And call the Choi family. Tell them if they want that alliance they've been begging for, they'll send their men to help me burn the jade serpents to ashes. Jun Seo stepped forward. Boss, it's obviously a trap. He wants you to come in blind with anger. I don't care if it's a trap. Min-ho's eyes were black fire. He has my pregnant wife, my child. There is no strategy here, no careful planning. There's only getting her back. If I die doing it, fine, but she lives. She and my baby live. That's all that matters. You're not thinking clearly. Min-ho grabbed Jun Seo by the collar, slamming him against the wall with barely controlled violence. I'm thinking perfectly clearly. My wife is terrified somewhere, wondering if I'll save her, wondering if our baby will survive this. Every second I waste talking is a second she suffers. So get out of my way or help me, but don't tell me to think clearly when the love of my life is in danger. He released Jun Seo and strode toward the armory. Behind him, his men exchanged glances before following. They'd never seen their boss like this, unhinged, desperate, willing to sacrifice everything. It was terrifying. And it was beautiful. Meanwhile, at the abandoned docks, Amara was tied to a chair in a freezing warehouse, her hands bound behind her back. Chen Wei circled her like a predator, his smile cruel. Your husband should be here soon. He's predictable when it comes to you. He'll kill you, Amara said, her voice steadier than she felt. Slowly. Maybe, but I'll have killed you first, and his child. Chen Wei's hand reached toward her stomach and she jerked away, fury in her eyes. Touch me, and you'll pray for death before he's done with you. Chen Wei laughed. Such fire. I can see why he's obsessed, but love makes men weak, stupid. He'll walk right into my trap, and I'll kill him in front of you before I end you both. You don't understand. Amara met his eyes without flinching. Love doesn't make Min-ho weak. It makes him absolutely unstoppable. And right now, you're the thing standing between him and what he loves most. You've already lost. You just don't know it yet. An hour later, Min-ho arrived at the docks with an army. 70 men, armed to the teeth, ready to die for their boss. He stood at the front, 2 guns holstered, a knife strapped to his thigh, and murder in his eyes. Chen Wei's voice crackled over a speaker. Come alone, Kang, or I'll put a bullet in her right now. Min-ho didn't hesitate. He stripped off his weapons, the visible ones, and walked forward alone. Behind him, Jun Seo whispered orders into his radio, positioning men around the perimeter. Min-ho might be walking in alone, but he wouldn't be fighting alone. Inside the warehouse, Min-ho's eyes immediately found Amara. She was pale but unharmed, her hands bound, her eyes wide with relief and fear when she saw him. Min-ho, don't. I'm here, he said softly, his gaze never leaving hers. I'll always come for you. Always. Chen Wei emerged from the shadows, a gun pressed to Amara's temple. Touching, really, but ultimately pointless. You're both going to die tonight, Kang. Your empire will crumble, and the jade serpents will rise from the ashes. You talk too much. Min-ho's voice was bored, but his body was coiled tension. If you're going to kill us, do it. Stop monologuing like a bad movie villain. Rage flashed across Chen Wei's face. You arrogant! The lights went out. In the darkness, Min-ho moved. He'd memorized the room layout the moment he'd entered, counted Chen Wei's men, calculated angles and distances. The knife, hidden in his boot, was in his hand before Chen Wei could react. What followed was brutal, efficient, and over in less than 3 minutes. Min-ho fought like a demon, taking bullets and blows but never slowing, never stopping until every threat was eliminated. When emergency lights flickered on, he stood over Chen Wei's broken body, blood covering his hands and face. But his eyes were only for Amara. He crossed to her in 3 strides, cutting her bonds with shaking hands, pulling her into his arms so tightly she gasped. "Are you hurt? Did he touch you?" "The baby." "We're okay. We're both okay." Her hands cupped his face, tears streaming down her cheeks. "You came." "I'll always come. Always." He kissed her desperately, tasting salt and relief and love. "I would burn the world down to reach you, every time." She felt him trembling against her, this powerful man undone by fear for her safety. "Let's go home. Please, Min-ho, take me home." He lifted her into his arms, carrying her past the bodies and blood, past his men who watched with respect and awe, his wife, his queen, his entire world. The next week was spent in lockdown. Min-ho refused to let Amara out of his sight, hiring the best private medical team to ensure the baby was unharmed by the stress. The doctors confirmed everything was fine, and Min-ho finally allowed himself to breathe. "This has to stop," Amara said one night as they lay in bed. "The violence, the threats. I can't raise our child in constant fear." "I know." His hand rested on her stomach, now visibly rounded. "I've been thinking about it, about getting out." She turned to stare at him. "What?" "Not completely. I still have responsibilities, people who depend on me. But I can step back, let my lieutenants handle day-to-day operations. I can be less visible, less of a target." His eyes met hers. "I want to be a father, Amara. A real one. Present, safe, there for every moment. I can't do that if I'm constantly fighting wars." "You'd really do that? Give up control?" "For you? For our child?" He pulled her closer. "I'd give up everything. You're what matters. This family is what matters. The rest is just legacy and ego." She kissed him softly, overwhelmed by love for this complicated, dangerous, devoted man. "I love you so much. I love you more than I thought possible." His hand spread across her belly. "Both of you." The following months passed in relative peace. Min-ho kept his word, stepping back from the front lines of his organization. He was still powerful, still respected and feared, but he was home every night, his hands on Amara's growing belly, talking to their unborn child. "Do you think it's a boy or girl?" she asked one evening as they prepared the nursery. "I don't care." His arms wrapped around her from behind, his hands covering hers on her stomach. "As long as they're healthy and have your smile." "What if they have your ruthlessness? Then heaven help anyone who crosses them." He nuzzled her neck. "But they'll also have your compassion, your strength, your beautiful heart. They'll be perfect." At 38 weeks, Amara went into labor during a summer rainstorm. Min-ho, the man who'd faced down armed enemies without flinching, nearly passed out when her water broke. "Hospital, now. Where are the bags? The car?" He was spiraling, all his usual control evaporating in the face of his wife's pain. "Min-ho!" She grabbed his hand, squeezing through a contraction. "Breathe. We have time." "We don't have time. You're having contractions. First, babies take hours. Trust me, we're fine." She smiled despite the discomfort. "Now call the doctor and drive carefully. No running red lights just because you're panicking." He ran 3 red lights anyway, his hand gripping hers the entire drive. At the hospital, he refused to leave her side, coaching her breathing, whispering encouragement, looking at her like she was performing a miracle, which, in a way, she was. 12 hours later, their daughter was born. She came into the world screaming, with a head full of black hair and her father's determined expression. When the doctor placed her in Min-ho's arms, the fierce Mafia boss broke down completely, tears streaming down his face as he stared at his child. "She's perfect," he whispered, his voice cracking. "Amara, she's absolutely perfect." "She has your eyes," Amara said weakly from the bed, exhausted but radiant. She has your beauty, your strength. He carried the baby to Amara, placing their daughter in her arms carefully, like she was made of spun glass. What should we name her? I was thinking Jiwoo. It means wisdom and beauty. Jiwoo Kang. He tested the name, then smiled, a real smile, soft and full of wonder. It's perfect. She's perfect. You're perfect. He kissed Amara's forehead, then his daughter's. My girls, my entire world. The next few months were an adjustment. Min-ho was a devoted father, waking for every feeding, changing diapers without complaint, and spending hours just watching Jiwoo sleep. His men found it hilarious and endearing to see their boss completely wrapped around a tiny baby's finger. She smiled at me, he announced one morning, bursting into the kitchen where Amara was making coffee. Our daughter smiled at me. That was probably gas, Amara said, amused. It was a smile. She knows her father. He was so earnest, so proud that Amara couldn't help but laugh. You're completely gone for her. I was gone for her the moment I saw her face. He wrapped his arms around Amara's waist, pulling her back against his chest. The way I was gone for you the moment you kissed me. Best dare I ever accepted. Best mistake you ever made. He turned her in his arms, kissing her deeply. Though marrying me is a close second. No regrets? His eyes held everything: love, devotion, promises kept, and promises still to make. Not a single one. You gave me a reason to be better, to want more than power and fear. You gave me a family, a future, a love I never thought I deserved. How could I regret any of it? She kissed him, again, slow and sweet. I love you, Kang Min-ho. I love you more, Amara Kang. He rested his forehead against hers. Thank you for taking that dare. Thank you for kissing the most dangerous man in the bar and changing his entire life. Thank you for catching me when I tried to run away. She smiled. And for never letting me go. 1 year after Jiwoo's birth, Min-ho threw a massive party. Officially, it was to celebrate their daughter's first birthday. Unofficially, it was his way of showing the world that he had everything he'd ever wanted. A wife he adored, a daughter he'd die for, and a life worth living. As the party wound down and guests filtered out, Min-ho found Amara on the balcony, Jiwoo asleep on her shoulder. The city lights sparkled below them, and the night air was warm and gentle. What are you thinking about? He asked, joining her at the railing. How different life is now. 1.5 years ago, I was just a gallery worker accepting a stupid dare. Now I'm married to the most powerful man in Seoul, mother to the most beautiful baby in the world, and happier than I ever imagined possible. Regrets? Not one. She looked at him, her eyes shining. You? He took Jiwoo from her arms, cradling their sleeping daughter against his chest, then pulled Amara close with his free arm. My only regret is that I didn't find you sooner, that I wasted years without you. We have the rest of our lives now. Forever isn't long enough, he said softly, kissing her temple, but I'll take every second I'm given with you too. They stood there, wrapped in each other, in the life they'd built from danger and dares and impossible love. Below them, the city pulsed with life, unaware that one of its most feared men had been completely conquered by a woman brave enough to kiss him and stubborn enough to love him. 2 years later, Amara was pregnant again. Min-ho was somehow even more overprotective the second time, having learned nothing about giving her space. But she didn't mind. She'd learned that his obsessive protectiveness was just love wearing armor. A boy this time, the doctor announced during the ultrasound. Min-ho's hand tightened on Amara's. A son. Jiwoo's going to be a big sister, Amara said, watching her husband's face transform with joy. That night, as they told their daughter about the baby brother growing in Mommy's tummy, Jiwoo pressed her small hand to Amara's stomach and smiled. Baby, she said clearly, one of her first words. Min-ho lifted his daughter into his arms, kissing her cheek. That's right, princess. A baby brother, and you're going to be the best big sister. Later, after Jiwoo was asleep, Min-ho made love to his wife with a tenderness that made her cry. His hands worshipped her changing body, his whispers praised her strength and beauty, and his love surrounded her like a shield. "I never thought I could have this," he admitted in the darkness afterward, his hand resting on her rounded stomach. "A family, peace, love. I thought I was too dark, too damaged, too covered in blood to deserve something pure." "You were never too anything for love," Amara whispered, threading her fingers through his hair. "You just needed someone to see past the armor to the man underneath." "You saved me." "No," she kissed him softly. "We saved each other." Their son was born on a spring morning, healthy and loud and absolutely perfect. They named him Min-jae, which meant brightness and talent, and he had his mother's warm brown skin and his father's sharp features. Min-ho sat in the hospital room with a child in each arm, Jiwoo on one side, baby Min-jae on the other, and Amara thought she'd never seen him look more content. "This is everything," he said quietly, meeting her eyes. "This moment, this family. This is what I was fighting for all along without knowing it." 5 years later, the Kang family was a force of nature. Jiwoo was 6, brilliant and fierce like her father, but compassionate like her mother. Min-jae was 3, already showing signs of the protective instinct he'd inherited from Min-ho. And Amara was the center that held them all together. Her gallery now one of the most respected in Asia, her influence in the art world undeniable. Min-ho had effectively retired from active leadership in his organization, maintaining respect and power but delegating operational control. He'd discovered he preferred being a husband and father to being a crime boss, and no one who saw him with his family could doubt where his priorities lay. "Do you miss it?" Amara asked one evening as they watched their children play in the garden. "The power, the control, the fear?" "Never." His arm wrapped around her waist, pulling her against his side. "I have everything that matters right here. The rest was just noise." "No regrets about that dare?" He turned her to face him, his eyes holding the same intensity they'd had that first night, the same hunger and devotion and absolute certainty. "That dare gave me you. It gave me everything. My only regret is that it took me so long to find you, and that I wasted even one moment of our lives together being careful when I should have been claiming you from the start." She rose on her toes to kiss him. "You claimed me pretty quickly, if I remember correctly." "Not quickly enough." His hands framed her face. "I should have kidnapped you that first night, taken you home, and never let you leave." "That's very Mafia of you." "Old habits." His smile was dangerous and beautiful and completely hers. "But I'd do it all again. Every fight, every threat, every dangerous moment. It was all worth it to end up here, with you, with our children, with this life." As the sun set over Seoul, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson, the Kang family stood together in their garden. Min-ho held Amara close while their children laughed and played, and he felt something he'd never thought possible in his violent youth: complete and utter peace. The dare had been simple: kiss the most dangerous man in the bar, but it had led to something extraordinary, a love that conquered darkness, survived danger, and built a family from blood and passion and unwavering devotion. And as Min-ho kissed his wife while their children called for them to watch their game, he knew with absolute certainty that he would spend the rest of his life making sure Amara never regretted taking that dare. Because she was his dare, too, his gamble, his one moment of perfect recklessness that paid off in ways he could never have imagined. She was his everything, his light in the darkness, his reason for breathing, and he was hers, completely, eternally, irrevocably hers, forever. The end. Thank you for watching this dark romance. If you enjoyed this story, please like, share, comment, and subscribe for more emotionally intense love stories.